Hello everyone, this is Refresh, and I am here to bring you a battle between two Throne of Eldraine sealed decks and the Defeat a God challenge deck from Journey into Nyx. On the left we have an Izzet deck, on the right we have a Rakdos deck. We'll be playing two games, and for these games we'll be using three hero cards. The first one is the Harvester. It says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. The Explorer, which says you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and the Vanquisher, which says your starting hand size is increased by 1, your maximum hand size is increased by 1. We'll first be playing on normal difficulty against 3 Rollicking Throngs, and then we'll be back for hard mode. We'll go ahead and get started by drawing our opening hands. Izzet draws a Mountain, a Corridor Monitor, a Locked Dragon, an Island, a Mountain, a Runaway Together, a Mountain, and a Searing Barrage. This is a pretty bad hand, and so we are going to take a mulligan. Because this is multiplayer, we will get a free mulligan, so let's go ahead and do that. Izzet draws a Locked Dragon, a Mountain, Sir Eleanor the Discerning, a Mountain, Charmed Sleep, Scorching Dragonfire, Weapon Rack, and Embereth Shieldbreaker. This is not a great hand because we don't have any islands, so we can't cast anything. So we are going to go ahead and take a second mulligan and go down to 7. Izzet draws a Charmed Sleep, Mountain, Island, Ogre Errant, Island, Mountain, Redcat Raiders, and Folio Fancies. This is an acceptable hand, and so we will keep it. We'll take the Ogre Errant and stick it on the bottom. Rakdos draws a Steelclaw Lance, Barge In, Malevolent Noble, Witch's Cottage, Barrow Witches, Bake Into a Pie, Festive Funeral, and Raging Redcap. We can't keep a one-lander, so we will use our free mulligan as well. Now we have a Malevolent Noble, a Plains, a Swamp, a Lost Legion, a Swamp, a Festive Funeral, a Tempting Witch, and a Barge In. This is not very good because we don't have any red lands. However, I think that we can keep this because we only have one red card and we can cast most of everything as long as we keep drawing lands. So we will do so. Because this is multiplayer, we'll draw for the first turn. And so Izzet will draw an island, and Rakdos will draw a swamp. Izzet will play an island and a mountain. We'll tap both and then play the Folio of Fancies. This is a artifact. It says players have no maximum hand size. For XX and tap, each player draws X cards. For 2 and a blue, tap, each opponent puts a number of cards equal to the number of cards in their hand from the top of their library into their graveyard. We're mostly using this as a way to draw cards and animate later. Rakdos will play a Plains and a Swamp. We'll tap them both, and then we'll play a Malevolent Noble. This is a 2/2 Human Noble with 2 sacrifice an artifact or another creature. Put a +1/+1 counter on Malevolent Noble. And then we will pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is Dance of Flame. Whenever a Reveler attacks, Dance of Flame deals 1 damage to each player. And then we also have Dance of Panic. As long as 5 or more Revelers are on the battlefield, all Revelers have haste and attack each turn if able. So these are really bad for us. We need to get rid of Revelers as soon as we can, so hopefully we'll be able to do so. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Izzet draws an island, and we'll discard the island. Rakdos draws a Castle Embereth, and we will discard the Tempting Witch. We'll untap. Izzet draws a Corridor Monitor, and Rakdos draws a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp and the Castle Embereth here. The Castle Embereth is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. You can tap it for red or pay 1 red tap, and creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. This enters the battlefield tapped. And Izzet will play a mountain and an island. Izzet will tap 3 mana, and will cast Charmed Sleep. This is an aura. It says Enchant Creature. When Charmed Sleep enters the battlefield, tap Enchanted Creature. Enchanted Creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Because Xenagos will frequently attack, we're going to affix this to Xenagos and tap him. And then Rakdos will tap 3 mana and play the Lost Legion. This is a 2/3 Spirit Knight. When it enters the battlefield, scry 2. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the top 2 cards. Keep the mountain, and we'll bottom the swamp. And then we'll pass the turn to Xenagos again. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is Impulsive Charge. At the beginning of combat this turn, all Revelers gain haste until end of turn and attack this combat if able. And we also have an Ecstatic Piper. It is a 2/2 Satyr Reveler. When Ecstatic Piper enters the battlefield, Xenagos Descendant attacks this turn if able. He's not able. And we have a Hero's Reward. When it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 2 life. All the Revelers are going to attack this turn because they are able. The Piper attacks and the 3 Rollicking Throngs also attack. Because there are 4 Revelers attacking, we'll be taking 4 damage each. So that'll be 8 damage to us, taking us to 12 from the Dance of Flame. And then we'll go ahead and block. The Malevolent Noble will block one of the Rollicking Throngs, and the Lost Legion will block the Ecstatic Piper. That'll kill the Ecstatic Piper. We'll still take 2 damage, but the Ecstatic Piper will die and we'll gain 2 life each. So we'll gain 4 life and take 2 damage. So we'll gain 2 life net, taking us up to 14. At the end of the turn, we will use the Harvester. It draws an Embereth Shieldbreaker, and we will discard the Corridor Monitor. Rakdos draws a Mountain, and we will discard a Swamp. We'll untap. It draws a Raging Redcap, and Rakdos draws a Castle Embereth. Rakdos will play a Mountain and a Swamp. It will play an Island. We'll go to combat now, and the Lost Legion and the Malevolent Noble will double attack 1 Rollicking Throng. That'll defeat the Rollicking Throng. And then on the second main phase, it will tap 3 mana and cast a Redcap Raiders. This is a 3/2 Goblin Warrior. When it attacks, you may tap an untapped non-human creature you control. If you do, Redcap Raiders gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. And then we will tap 2 mana and play the Embereth Shieldbreaker. This is a 2/1 Human Knight. And then we'll pass the turn to Xenagos, who will cast the top 2 spells. The first one is the Dance of Flame, and this doubles up with the other Dance of Flame. So now each attacking Reveler will deal 2 damage, and these should have untapped. And then we'll also cast Xenagos' Strike. Xenagos' Strike deals 4 damage to each player. There's 2 players, so we'll take 8 damage, taking us to 6. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. It draws an island and bins the island. Rakdos draws a mountain, and we will bin the mountain. And then we will untap. It draws a weapon rack. Rakdos draws a mountain. We'll play the mountain and the Castle Embereth. Will tap the mountain and 2 islands, and then cast Raging Redcap. This is a 1/2 Goblin Knight with double strike. And then we will go to combat. The Malevolent Noble and the Lost Legion will attack 1 Rollicking Throng. We'll tap the Raging Redcap to give the Redcap Raiders haste as it attacks as well, killing both of the Rollicking Throngs. We will then pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is a Xenagos' Scorn. Xenagos Ascended gains trample until end of turn, attacks this turn if able. He's not able. And then we also have Impulsive Return. Return 2 cards named Ecstatic Piper from Xenagos' graveyard to the battlefield. At the beginning of combat this turn, Impulsive Return deals damage to each player equal to the number of Revelers on the battlefield. So there's only 1 Ecstatic Piper in the graveyard. It says return 2, but because there's only 1, I think we'll go ahead and return just the 1 and assume that it just means that that works. So this returns to the battlefield. The Ecstatic Piper would normally make Xenagos attack, but he's not able. Each player will take damage equal to the number of Revelers on the battlefield. That is 1 Reveler, so we'll take 2 damage to go to 4. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Will draw a Runaway Together, and we'll discard the Weapon Rack. Rakdos will draw a Swamp and discard the Swamp. We'll untap. Draws a Mountain. Rakdos draws a mountain. We'll play the mountain. The Lost Legion is going to attack and kill the Ecstatic Piper. The Ecstatic Piper dies. We'll gain 4 life to go back up to 8. And then we will spend 2 mana over here with Izzet and cast Runaway Together. It's an instant. It says choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hands. So we're going to return the Embereth Shieldbreaker to our hand, and we're going to return Xenagos to his hand. Xenagos is a 6/5 legendary enchantment god, and it can't leave the battlefield as long as there's a Reveler on the battlefield. When Xenagos Ascended leaves the battlefield, and that's happening because of the Runaway Together, each player wins the game. And so the Throne of Eldraine Seal decks defeat Xenagos on normal difficulty. We'll be right back for hard mode. Alright, we are back for hard mode. We have 4 Rollicking Throngs assembled here, and we'll go ahead and draw our opening hands. Draws an Island, a Folio of Fancies, Jousting Dummy, Castle Embereth, Ogre Errant, Scorching Dragonfire, Dwarven Mine, and Slaying Fire. This is not a great hand, but we will keep it. Rakdos draws a Swamp, a Raging Redcap, Barrow Witches, Mountain, Weaselback Redcap, Searing Barrage, and Rankle, Master of Pranks. Again, not a great hand, but we will also keep this as well. Rakdos will begin by playing a Mountain and a Swamp. We'll tap the Mountain, play Weaselback Redcap. This is a 1/1 Goblin Knight, and for 1 in red, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Izzet will play the Dwarven Mine. This is a Mountain, and it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other mountains. When it enters the battlefield untapped, create a 1/1 red dwarf creature token. Because we don't have any others, it'll enter the battlefield tapped. And then we'll also play a Castle Embereth, which enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. We do, so we will play the Embereth untapped. And then we'll pass to Xenagos, who will cast the top 2 cards. Xenagos casts Impulsive Return, and we've seen this before. We only have to worry about the bottom part, where each player takes damage equal to the number of revelers on the battlefield. And then we'll get an Ecstatic Piper as well, which enters the battlefield and will cause Xenagos to attack. We will take 10 damage from the assembled revelers to go down to 10. Xenagos will attack, and then we'll take another 6 damage to go to 4. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Izzet will draw a Mountain, and we will discard the Folio of Fancies. Rakdos will draw a Barrow Witches, and we will discard a Barrow Witches. And then we'll untap. We'll draw. Izzet draws a Raging Redcap. Rakdos draws a Steel Claw Lance. We will play a Island and a Mountain over here. And we will play a Mountain over here. We need to be able to survive the next attacks, right? So what we'll do is we will spend 2 mana on Izzet's side to play the Jousting Dummy. This is a 2/1 Artifact Scarecrow Knight, and for 3 it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And then Rakdos will tap out and we'll play the Raging Redcap. And then we are going to pass the turn to Xenagos, who will untap and cast the top 2 cards. The first one is Xenagos' Strike. It deals 4 damage to each player. We are going to die unless we can do something about that. I don't think that we can. We're going to spend 2 mana and cast Scorching Dragonfire, targeting the Ecstatic Piper. Ecstatic Piper will die. We'll gain 4 life, and that'll take us up to 8. But then we'll take 8 damage from Xenagos' Strike and immediately die, and that'll be the end of us. We never even stood anything resembling a chance with this one. And so we lose, and that is how it goes sometimes when you are playing against the Defeated God Challenge deck. Let me know what your thoughts were about this game in the comments below. If I made any rules or play errors, also let me know so that I can learn from your wisdom. If you found this video enjoyable, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.